Welcome to Chuck's Culture Channel, your video journal of the lively arts in St. Louis and beyond. And this time around, my guest is Andrew Jorgensen, the General Director of Opera Theater of St. Louis, which, as we're recording this, is just concluding their 2023 season and is already revving up for 2024. Our look back at 2023 includes the company's stunning local premiere of Carlisle Floyd's Susanna, starring Janae Brugger, an ingenious new performing version of Scott Joplin's Treemonisha by composer Damian Sneed and librettist Karen Shilton, a dark atmospheric Tosca with Katie Van Kooten in the title role and Hunter Enoch as the repellent Scarpia, a sort of updated version of Mozart's comedy Così fan tutte with a uniformly strong cast, and last but definitely not least, the always entertaining one-night-only event Center Stage, which features members of the Jardine Young Artists in an evening of numbers familiar and obscure from opera and the musical theater. So, what's a night at the opera like at Opera Theater of St. Louis? Let's watch this video and find out.
Few things are more enticing than a night at the opera. Timeless tales crafted with sight and sound, the exhilaration of being whisked away, an ancient art reimagined by innovative storytellers in a modern setting. Opera Theater of St. Louis invites you to experience a night at the opera. What is opera? Think of the greatest novels, unforgettable characters, stunning plot twists, heartbreaking tragedies, and epic romances. Now imagine them set to music and brought to life in front of you. For centuries, opera has thrived. Today, it remains resilient and nimble, constantly evolving to meet the needs of our world. At Opera Theater of St. Louis, we deliver cutting-edge entertainment for modern audiences, and we welcome newcomers, designing shows to be approachable, accessible, and just plain enjoyable. Our storytellers have reimagined the genre, inspiring us to rethink the setting. Our experience stretches beyond the confines of the stage. Start with an intimate picnic in lush gardens, then savor the show itself, and cap your night off with moonlit drinks among friends. Thrills you can feel, anticipation you can taste, sights and sounds that invigorate and inspire. Come enjoy a symphony for your senses with a promise of unexpected delights. Learn what it means to experience a night at the opera.
Okay, well, there you had a quick look at the 2023 season of Opera Theater of St. Louis and that wonderful Night at the Opera video, demonstrating that A Night at the Opera bears no resemblance to the Marx Brothers movie. And now here, of course, is the man himself, Andrew Jorgensen, the General Director of Opera Theater. Andrew, good to see you again.
Chuck, it's good to see you. Happy July.
Yeah, happy steamy July. Yeah, I should explain to people that Andrew and I are near neighbors. We live very next door neighborhoods in St. Louis, and so we have some mutual friends. But I really haven't seen you except to say hi. How are you? Since I think the last time we talked.
Well, during the season, my job is to make small talk with everybody,
Yes.
but to have meaningful conversations with almost nobody. So I'm glad that we get to sit down now and catch up, both on the season that was and the season that will be.
Yeah, that's your job. But let's talk about the season that was, because it was really pretty good. And from my point of view, I'm going to start with the show that I thought was the big hit of the season was Carlisle Floyd's Susanna, which personally just knocked me out.
I'm so glad to hear that. It was a great season. Let me take a half a step back.
Okay.
It was the first season that we were able to plan. In my 5 years at Opera Theater, it was the first season I was able to execute not under the shadow of COVID.
Right.
Of
Good
course,
point.
COVID continues, and of course, we were worried about people's health and will always be, but it was the first time that our planning wasn't influenced by how many people could fit in a rehearsal room or whether the unions would allow us to put certain size groups together,
Yeah.
or frankly, if people were just fundamentally safe coming together. And so while I'm so proud of the seasons that we've delivered on my in my first 5 years at Opera Theater, this is the first one that really feels like it was from the ground up, and not subject to so many of the external forces that have been challenging the world. Susanna is an opera that Opera Theater had never done. It's an opera I have always wanted to stage. It's an opera actually that one of our founding supporters, Phyllis Brissenden, wanted us to stage. Phyllis famously left the company a record-setting bequest when she passed in the winter of 2019. She was our guardian angel through the pandemic. We weren't able to get to Susanna while she was with us. It was originally planned for 2020. It was canceled because of the pandemic. We moved it to 2023, but with many of the same pieces, critically the same director, Patricia Rissette, and the same conductor, Gemma New. And I think it's one of the best productions I've ever had the pleasure to be associated with. And that was the reaction just from across the board. Artists, company members, my predecessor, general directors, people just couldn't be effusive enough about Susanna. I'm so happy we were finally able to bring that work to our stage.
Yeah, a harrowing and powerful picture of what happens when religion goes bad. Is religion can bring out the best of us, but Susanna is an example of what happens when it brings out the absolute worst in us, and it's really a brilliant piece. Another one, of course, I liked this time around was the reimagined version of Premonition.
Again, a project that was born during the pandemic. Damian Sneed and Karen Chilton came to Opera Theater the first time to compose The Tongue and the Lash, a piece I know that you enjoyed, the 25-minute long opera that they created for our New Works Bold Voices Lab, a series of 3 short works we commissioned for our parking lot outdoor season in 2021. This short work they wrote about an imagined post-debate discussion between Baldwin and Buckley after their famous debate at the Cambridge Union about race in America, was this short, searing, beautiful opera. We were so inspired by it on the asphalt after the opening of that opera on a very muggy Missouri evening. James Robinson, the artistic director, and I were able to talk to Damian and Karen and say, what do you want to do next? And they said, we want to take on Tremonisha. And that was just a thrill for us to be part of. They chose to honor the work that Joplin left us. Scott Joplin, the great underestimated classical composer.
Yes.
Didn't finish the orchestrations, but wrote the text and wrote the music. They fleshed out the work he had created, and in what I thought was just a brilliant treatment, created a prologue and an epilogue, which became a first act and a fifth act that encircled Joplin's work, in which Scott Joplin and his wife and muse, Freddie Alexander, became part of the story. Just a brilliant melding of history and the pre-existing opera. And to watch audiences respond to that night after night was absolutely thrilling. A huge number of new to file first-time audience members, and just a really joyous evening at the opera. And we don't get nearly enough of those.
And it just on paper, it sounds like something that could have been a massive act of hubris, but it was absolutely not. It was really respectful, and I thought tremendously well done. So I hope we hear more from them.
I hope that's right, and I hope that we will hear more from them. I also hope that Tremonisha will go on to succeed in other theaters.
Yes.
So often Opera Theater has been able to bring works back to the center of the canon, starting works like Nixon in China that hadn't had their due. But even a couple of years ago in our parking lot season, Highway 1 USA of William Grant Still, we like to bring works that need attention back to the center, and we hope that in doing so, others in the field will pick them up. And I hope that the same happens for Tremonisha.
And of course, Opera Theater always does a couple of traditional favorites. For example, we had Puccini's Tosca. Another, by the way, great example of what happens when religion and politics get mixed up.
Yes. religion, politics, and power in this case, and
Hmm.
a nasty outcome for everyone, but hopefully beautifully portrayed.
Hmm.
We had our artistic leaders, James Robinson, the artistic director, and Daniela Candelari, our principal conductor, at the helm of this production. Believe it or not, it was Jim Robinson's first Tosca in his entire career. And it
Really?
was fun
Wow.
to see what they came up with, especially with a great cast. You need a great tenor, a great soprano, and a great baritone.
Yes.
And we're fortunate in this production to have all three of those. It was fun to see what they came up with together.
Yeah, that was a beautifully sung production and very atmospheric. So I liked it a lot. And then finally, we had the opera that we're seeing a 2012 production of behind me here, Mozart's Così fan tutte.
Yes, that was the last time we did Così in a period production behind you. This time we had a different approach. Our
Mhm.
director, Tara Branham, brought us to World War I in a field hospital, a manor house turned into a field hospital. It was a really interesting concept, and together with conductor Jerry Lynn Johnson, I think they led a cast. For me, the highlight was just the extraordinary singing.
Yes,
Across six
absolutely.
principals, you need six really strong singers, and we were fortunate to have that. Cozy is a long opera, and so you just really need to know that you're going to delight in the singing from
Yes.
every single one of these artists, and we were fortunate to have that this year. Together with Center Stage, always a highlight to hear the young artists. The Road to Freedom concert that Damian Sneed curated at the Third Baptist Church down at Grand Center before the opening of the season. Just from the beginning to end, it was a really artistically exciting season. And it felt good to be sort of back to normal. And I
Yeah.
mean that in the best way possible, doing the things that we do at Opera Theater of St. Louis, artists coming up to the tent, the post-show receptions, toasting under the stars, and just enjoying this beautiful tradition. Really was a very special return to normalcy
Yeah.
for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. I want to circle back to the Center Stage concert because of course that's one that I don't think is quite as well known. It's a one night only performance, concert performance of arias by members of the Jardine Young Artists. And I really have loved that every time I've seen it. And we were just talking before I started the recording about how the process of recruiting for this has already started for 2024.
It's the Young Artist Program is one of the most important parts of our mission, and it's always ongoing. Literally before the season ended, we had posted the applications online for the 2024 class of Jardine Young Artists. Across the summer, young artists will be making their recording their video submissions and submitting their applications, and our team will be reviewing as many as 1,100, 1,200 applications. We listen to a recording from every single singer to make sure that we are looking under every rock and not just looking at resumes to see
Yeah.
about fancy credentials, but really listening to the singers. From that group of 1,200 or 1,100 applications, we will select between 300 and 400 singers for in-person auditions. In September, my colleagues, Patricia Rissette, who is the artistic director of the Young Artist Program, and Yvette Loinas, who leads the artistic department, will go on an 8-city tour across 2.5 weeks, and they'll hear between 300 and 400 applications, live auditions, and then they will select about 30 successful applicants. And if you do the math, this makes getting into Harvard, Princeton, Yale look simple.
Yeah.
It's about as competitive a field as you could hope to be part of. But the process starts that early because, first of all, there's a true arms race in young artist programs, and we like to be out in front so that we are to getting the very best talent that we can. And there are other young artist programs also out there recruiting, and we want to get the very best talent, so we get out there early. But also, the sooner we can secure the young artists, we can do small role casting, we
Hmm.
can do casting for understudies, we can get measurements to our costume shop who start sourcing fabrics and working in the wintertime to actually make these costumes. And we can start planning for next year's center stage, because putting all the music together for a program that might include 20 different operas in one evening is a huge task unto itself. So that process of auditioning has already started. Here it is, July the 6th, and we're already getting ready for next year. No rest for the weary, but just
Yeah.
excited to get back to it and start all over again.
Yeah, and I really wanted to address that because I think a lot of people may not realize that, they want to know, what are you guys doing now that the season's over? Well, you're starting on next season because that's
Yes.
how long the whole process takes.
From time to time, I am asked, is mine a full-time job? Or if I live year round in St. Louis, or, what do you do when you're not in season? And the answer is, well, first of all, we actually see more people outside of the season through our education and community engagement programs than we do in the season. But even still, planning the opera season is a year-round effort.
Hmm.
Finalizing casting for 2024, working with the directors and conductors of 2024 to ensure that we have productions ready to go. And we're planning 2025 and even some projects in 26 and beyond.
Wow. Wow. Now, of course, when we'll do another interview when we get closer to 2024, but just to wrap this one up, let's give people a little idea of what's coming in 2024 really quickly.
Another fantastic opera theater season that, as this year, as most years, combines some, we hope, beautifully done classics and a couple of things that are new and different. To start with the beautifully done classics, we'll open with The Barber of Seville.
Yeah.
It will be as funny as a comedy should be. It will be a little bit shorter, a little bit tailored to make it really something that will be accessible to families
Hmm.
uh, and accessible to people who maybe have not been to the opera before, who are trying opera for the first time, but also beautifully done. Justin Austin, who just had this star turn in Tremonisha, will come back to opera theater to sing the lead role of the barber. That will be just fantastic. And this
Ah,
wonderful mezzo soprano, Hong Mi Woo, will come to sing Rosina, the principal female. It's a great cast. We have a wonderful conductor, Jonathan Brandani, who gets the Rossini style, and a stage director, a choreographer turned stage director I've known for years, named Eric Sean Fogel, who is going to come work with us on the production. It will be funny, it will be fleet, it will be a really joyous evening at the opera, just a perfect way to open the season.
okay.
We'll go on, another true gem in La Boheme, which we are
Ah,
overdue to get back to. What makes Boheme worth getting back to here is the cast. Joshua Blue, who has been so successful at Opera Theater in so many projects. He was Tamino in our Magic Flute a
yeah,
couple of
yeah.
years ago. He will sing Rodolfo. Katarina Burton was a soprano in our Young Artist programs, going on to a really significant career, will come back to sing Mimi. Thomas Glass, who had a star turn as Harvey Milk a couple of years ago
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
title role of that opera, comes back to sing Marcello. It's just a great cast of a lot of people who we've watched grow up, now coming back for really fantastic opportunities. Jose Luis Gomez will conduct, and Michael Schell, who was last at Opera Theater for our last production of The Barber of Seville, which was funny and beautiful, will come to direct a period production of La Boheme. No car washes, no gas stations. This will be Paris. It will be period. It'll be
Okay.
beautiful. a beautiful way to open the season in these two operas. And then some different things. In the third position, I'm very excited. Our first ever production of Handel's Julius Caesar.
Mm.
This is one of Handel's best operas, an opera we'll do so well, some of his best music, a work we've never done at Opera Theater of St. Louis, and a work kind of like Susanna that I have always wanted to produce. Elkanah Pulitzer, who got her start as a stage director at Opera Theater with the abduction from the Seraglio going on 15 years ago, will come back to direct. She's having a worldwide career now. Our principal conductor, Daniela Candelari, will conduct this production. We have a great cast coming together, just beautiful music, and an opera that our audiences will finally get to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the fourth position, not a world premiere, but a 21st century work that desperately needs to be done more frequently. And this is Philip Glass's Galileo Galilei. It premiered in the year, I think it was 2000 or 2002. It's only been done 2 or 3 times since it was premiered. It's a short opera,
Mm-hmm.
just a beautiful sort of plot-driven, beautiful music, very much Glass's style. And it's the story of the trial and of the trials of Galileo Galilei, when the Catholic Church forced him to recant his observations about the shape of the solar system,
Mm-hmm.
and his famous refusal to do so. It's an incredibly powerful story, and without being didactic, I think that Glass's story speaks powerfully to the world that we're living in today, and to so many of the issues that we face in our world today. So again, a work that needs to be seen, a work that we are excited to bring to our stage. James Robinson, our artistic director, will direct this production, and together with his video designer and set designer, I think they're imagining a spectacular world where we are quite literally transmitted to the heavens to see the world as Galileo might have seen it. A beautiful concept and a beautiful opera that needs to be done, and that we hope our audiences will be excited to see. We've only done one Glass opera here ever. That was the US premiere of The Trial. It was a great success.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so we are thrilled to return to Philip Glass, and hope that in totality, this season really represents the range of the canon, and that there's something for everyone, as an opera theater season strives to do every year.
Yeah. And that's kind of an opera theater from the get-go. There's always a wide variety of operas, classics, and also some things you almost certainly never seen before.
That's been the recipe since our founding.
Yes.
A world premiere or something new, something eclectic, something rare, something popular, but popular and worth doing because we're bringing something special to it. You know, in some of the big opera companies, you know, it's a joke about they'll do Tosca with, 3 days of rehearsal. And the joke is the tenor and the soprano will say to each other, oh, we'll do it the way we did it together, 5 years ago in Milan.
Yeah.
You stand here, I'll stand there. You stab me then, I'll go jump then. And they just kind of throw it together and throw it on stage. That can work in some places, but that's never how we approach anything at Opera Theater. Everything is always bespoke, it's special, it's direct for our audience. So whether it was this past season's Tosca or this coming season's Barber or Bohème, we always bring the energy and full resources of our company to every production to ensure it's special and worth doing again.
And there you go. So that's what we can expect next year. Recap of this year, another successful season. Andrew Jorgensen, thanks for taking some time to talk about this over here on Chuck's Culture Channel.
Well, we're glad to do it, and we look forward to catching up closer to the season when I can tell you if all of these plans are actually shaking out the way that we hope that they will be. We'll check in on the far side of a few months, and I'm sure we'll see that it's all moving in the right direction.
We'll definitely do that. Meanwhile, if you want to see links about opera theater, all you have to do is look down here in the video description field. You'll see them, including links to Opera Theater's YouTube channel. And also, please spread the word about Chuck's Culture Channel on the internet. I've been on a hiatus for the last couple of months because I broke a hip, but I'm back to normal now. So once again, we will see you next time around. Bye, folks.